Companies such as L'Oreal, Unilever have reported above the industry growth rate. That's because of their presence in emerging countries. Unilever derives more than 55% of its total revenue from emerging markets, and L'Oreal is expanding there quite rapidly. So, because of the favorable results driven by emerging countries, companies are now prioritizing expansion in emerging markets to drive future growth. It's not just BRIC, but also new markets or frontier markets such as Egypt, South Africa, Saudi Arabia, Vietnam, and so on. These companies generally believe that middle class is expanding in these markets and they have greater affordability. So they are able to afford the products of these companies. Also, the great majority of the population growth will be coming from these markets. So the companies would like to go and make their presence in these markets while there is time. And also this will provide them with first mover advantage. But the question is not just expanding in these markets. There is a vital issue that needs to be addressed, and that is how would they do it? The infrastructure in these markets are very different from the Western markets. For example, distribution system is not the same. Countries such as Brazil, Russia are dominated by direct sellers, whereas in Western markets, you mostly see retail-based stores. So for companies to expand in these markets, not only do they have to tailor their products to suit regional preferences, but also think about an appropriate distribution system that would allow them to penetrate deeper into these markets. Although emerging markets are a priority, Western markets are still very important for these companies because a large part of these companies' revenue come from Western markets. So in Western markets, we actually see an interesting phenomenon. We can classify marketing strategies into two different groups. In one group, you have companies such as Unilever and L'Oreal that have focused on innovations and marketing. L'Oreal ranged a number of products under its Maybelline brand. It also launched products under Garnier and L'Oreal Paris. Unilever launched new variants of deodorants under Axe, and also it's promoting Dove Men Care. These companies believe that consumers are willing to pay extra provided they trust the brand, provided they recognize the brand. So they focused on innovations and marketing and did not rely much on price discount. On the other hand, you have companies like Procter & Gamble and Colgate, who were afraid that consumers would shift to cheaper options, and hence they reduce their prices to keep the consumers within their portfolio. In the end, what we see is that companies that have focused more on innovations and marketing are the ones that have benefited more in terms of value sales growth. Now, one can argue that these companies are focused on two different types of product categories. For example, L'Oreal is more cosmetics and skincare, whereas Procter & Gamble, Colgate are more toiletries, basic products. So marketing strategies for these companies would tend to be different. But the fact that consumers tend to pay more or are willing to pay more for brands they trust hold true across the board, regardless it's higher end cosmetics products or they are just basic toiletries that we use on a daily basis. An example of that is Alberto Culver. Their shampoo brand Tresemme proved to be quite successful in the face of the recession because the brand was perceived as value for money. So what we see in the end, as I've mentioned, is that relying on innovations and marketing proved to be a better strategy for these companies. What we see in the premium category is that companies in 2010 are performing better than 2009. And this is primarily due to travel retail, which has grown in between 13 to 14%. And that's primarily coming from Asia Pacific. Companies such as Estee Lauder and luxury division of L'Oreal are tapping into the growth potential in travel retail. They have invested significantly in product launches and marketing. L'Oreal launches fragrances under YSL and Giorgio Armani, and it is continuing to benefit from its two successful skincare launches last year, which are Genifique and Absolute. In addition, L'Oreal is trying to expand the sales of Kiehl's across the world. As for Estee Lauder, it has also launched a number of products under its night repair range, which proved quite successful last year. It is also investing to enhance consumer experience at the Estee Lauder counter. So if we actually summarize their performances, we do see that most of their growth are coming from travel retail, in which these companies are trying to tap into. But beyond that, they're also trying to drive growth by product launches and increasing consumer experiences at their respective counters by either investing in technology such as having iPads where consumers can diagnose their skin problems or determine what their skin type is to get the right products, or be it in terms of training the assistants at the counters so that they can be more helpful in terms of product recommendations. So in the end, this is definitely helping and favoring the premium brands.